Blog Talk Radio.
Hemp, hemp! Hooray! Hemp can save the world from many a disease. Make better paper without cutting trees. The tensions of this world, this earth can ease. We've had enough of war, it's time for peace. You can make clothes with it. You can make food with it. You can make paper with it. You can make fuel with it. Hemp, hemp.
Greetings and salutations. This is HempAware Radio with your host, Tyler Hemp. We are broadcasting from beautiful sunny Southern California, and we have another amazing Hempisode laid out for you today. You can access all of HempAware Radio archives on blogtalkradio.com/HempAware. And if you haven't already, visit HempAware.com to sign up for the HempAware Membership Club to get discounts on hemp products all year long, among many other benefits. Our title for today's Hempisode is Hemp Storytime with artist Michael M. This is going to be a blast. I can just feel it. Since our shows are currently only 30 minutes, we're going to jump right into Storytime with my dear friend and hemp colleague, artist Michael M., who is the creator of digitalhemp.com and the digitalemporror.com, which is Jack Herer's book, The Emperor Wears No Clothes, in digital format, which is a very cool resource to have access to, and it's all free there for you to have access to. He's also involved with many other hemp-based projects, and he's one of the greatest artists that I know, and it's an honor and a privilege to have him on the show. So welcome aboard, Michael M. Thanks so much for coming on the show with us today.
Blessings and thanks, and boy, this is going to be fun.
Yes, it is. Now, we've known each other for over 10 years, and I've heard so many cool stories about hemp and old wives' tales and historical events from you, and I thought that today could be a place for us to share some of these cool stories with our listeners.
Wonderful. I can't wait to do this.
Awesome. So before we get into some of the stories about hemp and how it's been woven into our history, what inspired you to be involved and be in the hemp movement?
Of all the things, the one word that I didn't know, and throughout my whole education, I was not introduced to the word until hemp, until Jack walked into my office when I was 40 years old. He walked into the studio, and as a matter of fact, I'm an artist. I do sign painting, and he is a former sign broker. He went to the sign supply house, asked who is the guy that smokes cannabis, and everybody said that man, because he sees it as a civil rights issue. He came to my office. I had my drawing of Jim Morrison up, reaching out to breaking on through, and then he introduces me to the word hemp. Now, I vaguely recall hearing the word hemp, or reading the word hempened rope in the Ernest Hemingway's The Old Man in the Sea, where the where the rope slipped through his hands and made him bleed. I never researched that word, hempened. Anyway, I found out what he was doing. He said he had all kinds of attention from the media, but all of his graphics were not up to par. So my job was to interpret everything and put it out in graphics so that the camera people can pick it up on every news across the nation. I later went on tour with him.
Very
and
cool.
Signs all across the country. Anyway, that's how I was introduced to it.
So are you saying that when Jack Herer used to display his booths on Venice in Southern California, are you saying all of your art was his banners up in Venice?
Yes, I did. I worked the hemp booth for 2 years on Venice Beach, and we just loaded it up with 3 foot by 8 foot, 3 foot by 10 foot, and then standing 5 foot by 2 foot upright banners all the way across. Then we did show cards. I did. As a matter of fact, I'm responsible for the medical marijuana logo and the 2 versions that are used in every state now for legalization. So I
very cool.
Very heavily with Jack and now without.
Awesome. Well, because today is such a short show, I would love to have you on in the future sometime. Again, we can cover, many more stories and topics. But let's talk about the word cannabis. I know you describe it in such a cool way in terms of its origins, the etymology of the word cannabis, and then also its origins, where it actually comes from. Is cannabis extraterrestrial? Does it come from another planet? And can you tell us about that?
Okay, well, you have to break the word cannabis down first, and then you'll get a direct translation from the ancient Greeks, who took the name and gave it to the ancient, took it from the ancient Egyptians. Now, canna is canine or dog. Bis or bi is 2. So it's the 2-dog plant from the 2-dog star. Now, hemp is the only natural fiber on Earth that twists to the left. All other natural fibers twist to the right. Some make, jute does twist to the left, but it can be grafted. You can't graft hemp onto jute. So that means that its DNA probably doesn't, because of the opposite twist, you cannot graft hemp with any other fibrous plant. The next step is, does its DNA twist to the left? And if it does, then more than likely it did come from an extraterrestrial source, because 99.99999% of all DNA in Earth twists to the right. So
fascinating.
I really believe the ancients were saying, man, this stuff is out of this world.
Wow. So cannabis is the 2-dog plant, which comes from the 2-dog star?
Which is what we call now Sirius. Sirius is the star from which, according to the ancient Egyptians, the goddess Sheshat brought hemp from the 2-dog star for us to use in every manner for paper, fabric, fuel, food, medicine, paints, varnishes, lamp oil, sealants, for every reason, but most of all to be used as incense in prayer. You cannot gain the divine's attention until you use cannabis in your prayer. Otherwise, it'll probably go unanswered.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Now we're getting. Yes, go on.
Well, there's there's a lot of facts that are proven to show the evidence of how hemp has been used for food, or fiber, clothing, shelter, and so it is one of the most, if not the most valuable resource on the planet, which is why we have this radio station, so that we can hempticate and empower as many people as possible, so that we can start providing food, shelter, and clothing for as many people on the planet. And the topic for today's show is Storytime with artist Michael M. You are one of the greatest artists that I know when it comes to graphic design, but also just freehand. You have such an amazing talent, and I'm so thankful to have you on the show. One of the stories that you tell me, and you've told me before, is about the story of Popeye, and how there's actually an underlying story that is behind the whole Popeye cartoon. Can you tell us about that story, how it relates to cannabis?
Absolutely. This is probably one of the most important stories to tell. You have to go back to the 1920s. In the 1920s, out-of-control corporations were called Bluto corporations, BLUTO. Those were the corporations that didn't care about the source of where it's coming from. They just strip it, take from the community, and get out. Now, the other thing, we have to go back to Louis B. Armstrong. He, as a jazz musician in New Orleans, the code word for cannabis back then was spinach. Hey, man, you holding the spinach? You got the green? That's so whenever Louis B. Armstrong was out, let's say, in Europe or anywhere else traveling, and he needed his cannabis, he would write to his manager and say, hey, send me my spinach or my arrangements. And there were no arrangements. So it's obvious that the man was asking for something else in code.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
So now Popeye represents the natural cycle. Popeye, the paper, the fabrics, the Bibles, the books, the maps, the flags, the pennants, the sails, all of that was made out of hemp, including the ship itself. It only cost $40,000 to build a ship back then, but it took $400,000 to outfit it in hemp, in the sealants and the paints, the varnishes, everything. So, now, Bluto represents the synthetic toxic sickle. And I say sickle because once it's expelled, nothing can take it out of the air, nothing living. So the story is all about which way do we go? For our fuel? Do we go to the natural cycle, where its worst emission is what you exhale, next year's crop is reconverting it back into oxygen again? Or do we go to the toxic sickle? Now, that battle, now Bluto would take olive oil into almost to rape. And Popeye's chained. He sucks his spinach through his pipe. He gets big and strong from the superior protein value in the hemp seed itself, and then he's able to beat Bluto and rescue olive oil. Now, olive oil represents the energy source. Olive oil. Which way do we go? So the whole story is about, and at the end, he says, "I'm Popeye the Sailor Man," toot toot off of his pipe, and gives you a big wink. So we're
very
all
interesting.
About cannabis. The whole thing is
very
in many stories, it's all about cannabis.
And then wasn't there something also in that story about industry?
Well, that was Bluto. Industry is represented by Bluto, and that's what they used to call out-of-control corporations, Bluto corporations.
And then in Dust We Try or something, wasn't it?
Yes. In the original cartoons, he had, like Linus, he had dust always around him. So it's always in Dust We Try, industry. It's just amazing how the words are right there in front of us, and even the stories are there. But until you're made conscious of it, it's a subliminal message to you.
Right. Well, thank you so much. We're going to go to a short break, and we will be right back with artist Michael M. at Storytime here on HempAware Radio.
Have you visited bulkhempwarehouse.com today? Discover dozens of bulk hemp products for great prices. Hemp seeds for your salads and smoothies, custom tailored hemp clothing for your profession, hemp fabrics, hemp foods, along with hemp body care goods and tons of other great items. Visit bulkhempwarehouse.com today to get the best prices and a huge variety of healthy hemp goods for you and your family. Hemp protein, hemp oils, hemp yarn, hemp books, and raw hemp fibers. Connect with us today and tell us what your project is and how we can help integrate hemp seamlessly. Just visit bulkhempwarehouse.com today.
Welcome back. This is HempAware Radio with your host, Tyler Hemp. We have artist Michael M. on the show today. Michael M., tell us about the story of the Wizard of Oz.
This is the grandest story of all. It was written by a gentleman who grew up on a farm, watched his dad go from being a farmer to being a banker to being an oil man. The way I finally recognized it when it actually was her dog, Toto, which is Tutu. That's the two dog reference.
Right.
Now, the Wizard of Oz really means he's the Wizard of Ounces, of OZs. And the OZ he's the Wizard of Oz, and he lives in the Emerald City. And when they go there, they get on a horse of a different color, which represents the different flavors or genes.
Variety.
The Dorothy represents we the people. The Tin Man is industry without a heart. The Scarecrow is agriculture without a brain. And the lion the Cowardly Lion are the cowardly politicians that didn't stand up to the petrochemical, pharmaceutical, timber, alcohol, and tobacco industries that all got together to make hemp illegal in 1937 using racism as the key. But now, let's see. So they have to go follow the yellow brick road to the Emerald City. Well, all cannabis was always sold in bricks. Even today, it's sold in bricks, and it's in gold. The path is made of gold. They have to pass through the field of addiction, which is that poppy field. They fall asleep, and then they're awakened. They come out of addiction using cannabis. In the 1920s, the Temperance Union would say to get off of alcohol, smoke cannabis. So now let's see. So the whole thing is all about cannabis and how it's being. Oh, the Wicked Witch of the West is the military-industrial complex, the flying monkeys and all of that. That represents the military, and she represents the industrial part of that. Always causing war. Look at us. Think of a country that's been in. We're under 240 years, and we've been at war for 218 years. That's got to tell you something. Now, Wizard of Oz is all about cannabis, and it's about the Munchkins. Come on, the Munchies. They make the Munchies. Come on.
Right.
It's all about at least subliminally letting people know that cannabis is your friend. It is not only your friend, it is your protector, it is your independence, it is everything. So that's what the story represents to me.
Oh, that's so awesome. It's amazing to see how, it's always been there for us to see the truth. And
he says, I'm sorry to interrupt, he says, the wizard says before she goes to Oz, she meets him on the road, and he's cooking up some hot dogs on a stick. And Toto, or Tutu, the dog, takes the dog off of the stick, and she reprimands the dog for Tutu, or Toto, for taking the dog, and the wizard says, "Oh, that's okay, from one dog to another." I mean, the messages can't be clearer.
Right.
And by the way, she sings the song "Somewhere Over the Rainbow," where bluebirds sing. The bluebird will not sing, or the songbird will not sing, without hemp seed in its diet.
That's right. That is true. That's one of the largest uses of hemp seeds is for birds, for bird seed.
That's the only reason why it was allowed to come into the country, but they cook it so that there are no viable seeds, or at least 1 out of 1,000 might take root. But
right, exactly. Very fascinating. Well, you heard it, folks. Next time you watch The Wizard of Oz, make sure you have cannabis on your mind and be focusing on every subliminal thing that you can find, just so you can see how fascinating it is. I'm sure there's several other references and movies and things that we can find that are, telling you the truth about cannabis and how beneficial and valuable it is for food, shelter, clothing, medicine, and so many other different benefits. Now, Michael M., it is true that you were arrested with Jack in South Carolina. Is that true?
Yes, in 1991, and on, Halloween morning on the 2 o'clock side, we were stopped and arrested for 2 ounces of marijuana, 2 ounces of mushrooms, and 2 doses of acid. I was told I wouldn't see daylight for 28 years. 8 days later, they dropped the charges, thanked us for teaching them about marijuana and how it can help with chemotherapy and as medical marijuana, and promised they would never arrest anyone ever again for marijuana offenses in their town. That was Winnsboro, South Carolina.
Wow.
Yes, go on.
Well, I was just going to say, you obviously had to say something convincing to let them, to inspire them to want to drop the charges. So what happened?
Okay. What happened was when I was arrested the next day, I got my drawing materials. I'm a portrait artist, so I started doing portraits of every person in the jail. There were 28 of us that were in a cell built for 12. I did everyone's portrait, and while I was doing it, I was hitting them with the hemp information. Now, the marijuana laws are based on racism. 75 years ago, most people don't realize this, but a non-white could not look at a white person in the eye for more than 3 seconds. You couldn't step on their shadows, and God forbid if they were caught staring at a white woman, that was rape, and you were put into prison for life. Well, in the record, the only record that we have of the hearings about marijuana, they said one of the senators said, "Look at those Negroes and Mexicans. They're staring at us right in the eye. They're stepping on our shadows. They're taking our white women into jazz clubs, and they tap their feet." Well, that's racism right there. Once everybody realizes that it's a racist law, it's over with. Now, back to the other story. I was teaching them that. The guards started asking questions. The next day, the third day, they were asking really intelligent questions. So I knew somebody was directing them to ask those questions. And then on the fourth day, we were called into the jail administrator's office, who, by the way, was the most important person in any maritime issue that you wanted to change the history on. You needed his signature to do it. He was DPhD to see that. Okay. We walk into his room. He has every famous ship around in that room done in relief. And he walks, and he told Jack, "I've had all kinds of people in my jail. I've had murderers, rapists, con artists. You name it, I've had them here. I'm getting calls from CNN, NBC, and ABC. They're all asking me, why am I holding the hemp tour hostage? What is hemp, and who are you?" And Jack looked at me and then looked at him and said, "I have one question. What were the sails made out of on old Ironsides?" He said, "Cotton." Well, anybody who knows anything about anything knows that cotton won't last for more than 3 months out in the salt air. So it took us an hour and a half to bring him up to speed. We found out later that he went back home, we were in a sharecroppers town. The descendants still had their land and mule and all of that. He went back and opened up letters written on hemp, fresh as the day they were written, talking about hemp sowing, how many seeds they had to live on until the harvest, year after year after year. Was so upset at his educational system that they all decided to drop the charges. When we had to pass Judge Weed's office to get to Judge J.J. Hood, and he had a cancer on his throat and a patch on there. the judge told Sheriff Bubba to undo Jack's shackles, and as he was doing that, he said, Mr. Hare, is it true that marijuana is good for chemotherapy? You see, my sister is ailing and she ain't doing too well. She can't hold down her food. Will marijuana help in any way? And Jack looked at him and said, you get her so stoned, she's stoned. And then you get her real stoned, and then you get her stoned, and I guarantee you she'll get the famous munchies, and she'll get the will to live. And his response was, you hear that, Judge? If anybody catches me with marijuana, you know it's for my sister.
Wow, that is so fascinating.
That's all it takes. I mean, that proves that if you know the hemp information, they cannot not only not lie to you, but they can't hold you.
Exactly. Interesting.
Because the truth
well,
is
that
the
is
truth.
Exactly. And I truly, humbly, honestly believe that the United States is waking up just like every other industrial nation around the world, and we are seeing the benefit and the value, and it's up to us, the people, to make the decisions, to purchase the products that are made of hemp, to be talking about hemp, to be sharing it with our friends, our families, writing blogs about it, making videos about it, and, you know, whatever industry that you are in, may you ask, how can I integrate hemp into the industry or into the profession that I am in? And that's why we're here, to support you and to help you, to encourage you to integrate hemp into your daily life. Because the more that we support hemp, the more that we're involved in the hemp movement and utilizing hemp on a daily basis, the quicker we're going to experience a relief of economic benefit. We're going to experience environmental benefit, career benefits. There's going to be more jobs available. And so with that said, Michael M., you are one of the greatest artists that I've ever met. How has hemp been integrated into your art and into your profession? And how do you use hemp, you know, in your art, or how could it be used in your art?
Well, first of all, the kind of art I'm doing, as far as I know, no one has ever done. I'm working with subliminal imagery. Everywhere there's shadows, there are hidden images, all in 3D without viewers or glasses. As far as I know, no one's done it. Maybe the ancient Egyptians did it, but I don't know. Anyway, I cannot do any artwork unless I'm totally stoned. If I'm not stoned, I'm not going to. I can't produce, because I get impatient, because it is a way that helps me focus so well that I can go, I can work day after day, hour after hour, week after week on the same thing, and see subliminal images that eventually become a story in a chapter in a book. So I'm using cannabis, literally the tar in the. I'm blending it with the work, so as well. So anyway, there we are. This is fun.
Awesome. Very interesting. Well, we have about 90 seconds left for our show today, and I would love to have you on the show in the future, Michael M., if you'd be so willing to join us at another time.
I'm honored.
And awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing the stories about hemp. There's so much more that we could share. The benefit and the value of hemp is almost unstoppable. I mean, there are so many uses of hemp. There are so many things that we can do to improve our lives on a daily basis by consuming hemp. So this is your host, Tyler Hemp, with HempAware Radio. We broadcast here every Tuesday at 11 a.m. It's been so fun today sharing these stories about hemp with you. And we will be back next Tuesday, 11 a.m. Check out all the archived shows on iTunes podcast library. They're all there archived for you. Please share them on your Facebook, on your Twitter, on whatever social platform that you're on, and spread the word about hemp, because it's important. We're here to empower and educate your hemposphere, and we're doing it one radio show at a time. We have some things that are going to be laid out for you in the near future, some projects that you can get involved with, and we're really excited about that. So stay tuned. and join us next week on HempAware Radio. We love you.